Interesting practice observation. Could the Texans be without one of CJ Stroud's favorite weapons?
We in here talking about practice.
Yes, we are, AI. We're also talking about the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are coming to town. Could the Chicago Bears actually be the more shorthanded team? Plus, something weird's going on with the Houston Texans. I had Nico Collins elaborate on it. By weird, I don't necessarily mean bad. And Bobby Slowick holds court. I asked him about one of his most polarizing topics. Let's go in. Inside the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localized, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the post to the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me, you can hear me right here. You can catch me at practice, daily practice reports, post-game shows, Reaction Monday, and a lot more to come. Just stay tuned for more information on what's going on with the locker room. We're already swarming in here. Be sure to get the comments in. Super chats go to the front. But let's start with the big news of the day from the Texans POV. Dalton Schultz misses practice, and I've talked about this a little bit, but I'll just put this way, okay? I think that a lot of times you can watch practice, you can gather some observations, but in regular season, you're not seeing a lot. It's actually a matter of, get the hell out of the way. It's not like training camp. You don't get to watch everything. So the observations are basically, is this guy going to practice? Is this guy out here? What does he look like? I'll get to that in a sec. First, shout out to AJ. He brought up something that I thought was interesting as well, and he did swarm the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
I love these John Gruden breakdowns. John Gruden needs to be back on TV. Look, there's a lot of players. There's a lot of people who've gotten second chances. The NFL content is better without John Gruden. Hell, maybe he doesn't want to go on TV. He wants to do his digital thing, but I've enjoyed the hell out of these John Gruden breakdowns, like at an extreme level. I've enjoyed the hell out of them. So I'm with you. You can kind of feel the passion. Back to the Dalton Schultz thing, though. If you asked me right now to make a bet, like if you just came up to me and you said, okay, Landry, I need you to bet me, do you think Dalton Schultz practices tomorrow or not? I would have to hesitate before I said no. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. But I would have to hesitate. It would almost be a coin toss because Dalton Schultz actually came out to the field, not in pads or anything like that, but he came out to the field. He was talking to this tight end coach. He was talking to Slowick. He seemed involved. It's not like he was on the side rehabbing, which, by the way, Kurt Hinish was rehabbing. Kurt Hinish looks like a psycho out there. He had his shirt off. I've never seen someone with their shirt off rehabbing, but he just was out there doing his thing. But Dalton Schultz, to me, he's moving like someone who may try to play on Sunday. Now, how long does it linger? Don't know. But if you ask me, do you think Dalton Schultz will practice tomorrow? I wouldn't say yes, but I wouldn't say no. And some would say, well, that's sitting on the fence. No, it's not sitting on the fence. That's a lot of times you can say no with 100% certainty. It's Sunday night. He knows how important he is. He's walking just fine. I would not completely dismiss the possibility if I go to practice tomorrow. I'm doing the basic bitch practice report, post-practice report, walking to the car. On Instagram at Landry Locker, also on YouTube. You're already here. Be sure to subscribe and like. I would not be surprised if Dalton Schultz practices tomorrow at all. Not even a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I could even see a situation where he practices and doesn't play. But he's not functioning based on the way that I observe. He's not functioning like someone that you can just completely dismiss as he's not going to play. I don't believe that. Jake is also swarming the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Put Stover, he's ready. He's ready, coach. He sure is. And the other thing about Cade Stover, and by the way, the offense, Bobby Slowick said something really interesting today. And there's kind of a theme. When the players say it, it hasn't surprised me, but something Bobby Slowick said today just really, really, really surprised me. I also asked him about the most polarizing play that pisses a lot of you off and also makes you excited at the same time. So we'll hear from Bobby Slowick in a sec. Stover's kind of a guy who you want to move around, though. You want to have him at fullback. You want to have him at tight end. But I agree. I think at the tight end position, I think Stover's more than capable to step in. We know Brevin Jordan can do a lot of things. I just don't like is Brevin Jordan capable of filling the void of Dalton Schultz and doing the stuff that Dalton Schultz does? I don't know about that, and you're kind of taken away from what he does. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle traditional tight ends. Do we see British Brooks in a three-point stance a little bit this Sunday? I think there's a possibility there as well. But I would not completely dismiss the possibility of Dalton Schultz trying to play and us hearing that Dalton Schultz is in the stretch line tomorrow, which they pushed practice back this week because I think because of the Sunday night, but you never know. They just kind of do whatever they want to do when it comes to that. Not that I have a real problem with that. It doesn't impact me. Well, it kind of does, but not in a bad way. We will get a 11 a.m. practice tomorrow. So at about 11:04, 11:05, we'll tweet out Dalton Schultz is or is not practicing. If he is not, you can dismiss him from playing. If he is, then maybe it happens. Who knows? But we'll keep an eye on Dalton Schultz and what's going on with him. Now in Chicago, though, Chicago's got issues because right now on the Texans injury report, there's only two guys that aren't practicing and two guys that are out. One of them is a special teamer in MJ Stewart, also a reserve safety. But the Chicago Bears, this is their injury report right here. It's already pretty packed. So you have Keenan Allen with the heel, did not practice. We'll see what he does tomorrow. You go all the way down. Mercedes Lewis, does it say old? Rest. Yeah, pretty much says old. I was making a joke, but it pretty much does say old. He needed to rest. Adunze is not playing. Pickens and Walker both limited in play, but the wide receivers for Caleb Williams could be thin. Adunze is not playing. Like there's zero doubt about that. He's not playing. And Keenan Allen, who the Texans tried to trade for this offseason, he may not go either. So Caleb Williams, the situation at wide receiver, going to be interesting to see what goes on with that. Yeah, Buffalo all over the Dolphins today. If we're talking localized, Tua got rocked again. He was really, really, really bad. The story of the game, had Tua not had yet another concussion, the story of the game would have been, man, that dude was terrible. But he did. It looks like he's probably going to miss some time now, at least a week. Ironically, it was DeMar Hamlin that was there when he tried to extend the play. So we might see Skylar Thompson starting for the Dolphins relatively soon. And you got to wonder what their status is going to be. Buffalo looks good, though. They're 2-0. James Cook, same draft as John Mechie, by the way, if we want to localize it. A couple of touchdowns on the ground and then a touchdown in the air. Buffalo looks good. They don't look like, as of right now, they miss Stefon Diggs. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on Buffalo. But yeah, Tua was bad, and then Tua was out. So those are the injury reports there in the localized POV of that TNF Thursday night football. I think there's been an interesting thing going on with the Texans. There's a really interesting theme going on, and it's so much different than what we're used to. And that is a lack of satisfaction after a win, which I think is healthy. I think it's really, really healthy that they're thinking this way. And Bobby Slowick actually took it to another level because I didn't think that I would hear Bobby Slowick say this, but he said it. And it's pretty encouraging, and it's actually kind of scary for the rest of the league. We'll hear that in a sec. Also, how Matt Eberflus's wife got into it with a water girl on social media. Yes, the head coach of the Bears, he was in the 2021 hiring cycle. His wife once got into it with a water girl. We'll let you know about that on the back end of the show. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along, swarm the super chat if you want to cut in line, and we'll see how that goes. PK says he's riding the coattails. He took -6 on BetUS. Shout out to you, my amigo. If any of y'all want to get in the game at BetUS, I'm actually kind of mad at them because now they're giving 150% bonus back. It was 125, which is great. But with the code YouTube150, you can get in the game. So you put $10 in, you got 25 to play with. If you followed me today, we won big because this was the confident play of the week. It was the point total over in the Arizona State Texas State game. They hit it. Probably should have hit it earlier, but they ended up hitting that. I think we're a few hundred up. Started out with 2,000 in the account. BetUS, though, all the props and everything like that. And we'll follow the money tomorrow and see where we want to go. I got the under for 110, and then I got the Texans -7 at 110. I'm not feeling good about the -7. I don't know. Just something feels kind of weird about that -7. Don't feel overly confident. Kind of gas myself up. And I blame y'all for making me do that. But it is what it is. BetUS promo code 150. Pawn Shop 84, Swarm in the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
How can I be a water boy? I don't know. Are you talking like Swishahouse water boys? Are you talking like Texans water boy? Those people seem like they can be damn near doctors. I don't know like what the trainers, they got like some sort of certificates. But we'll get to Matt Eberflus's wife and her beef with the water girl. Pretty entertaining. I remember when this happened. It was wild. This is a good question from King James. Can CJ survive the Bears D? Pause, first of all. You got to put defense there. But I think it's a good defense. It's an underrated defense. But the Texans got a lot of stuff to work with. And we saw it against the Indianapolis Colts. We saw what the Texans were capable of. Stefon Diggs with the 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon runs for 1.5 football fields. But the crazy thing is those two guys after the game, they both said it. And their lockers are by each other. They have sayings. They both kind of bring an element of veteran leadership, toughness, chip on their shoulder. And they should, because you look at where those two guys come from. Joe Mixon in the Super Bowl in Cincinnati, damn near back in the Super Bowl after a battle with the Kansas City Chiefs. Stefon Diggs, toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs. It seemed like damn near every year. Heartbreaking loss. Both of those guys have been knocking on the door at getting that ring. And they arrive here, join a young team, and they're both extremely hungry. And I thought it was interesting because my biggest takeaway on the post-game show, which we do after every Texans game, was I didn't think they played that good. And there are some people who say, and this is kind of a criticism of me sometimes whenever I try to analyze the team, not from everybody, but from some, they say, well, how are you going to be so negative? A win is a win. How can you say that they didn't play that good? I watched the game and I didn't feel like they played that good. I felt like there was more meat left on the bone. And as I was on the post-game show saying that, a lot of people agreed too. So I'm not sitting here. I'm not one of those weasels who takes like one person's opinion and say, some people said that. But right as I'm on the post-game show and the quotes start firing off and you see what Aaron Wilson, Big Sarge, Chancellor, all the guys who are at the game, when they're putting out quotes from the locker room, Joe Mixon said the same damn thing. Stefon Diggs said the same damn thing. We're going to hear an extreme version of it from Bobby Slowick in a second. But They said that they felt like there was some meat left on the bone and they did not perform as well as they felt they were capable of performing, which is great to hear because that means the bar is higher. I asked Nico Collins about that. I was at practice. Nico Collins' media availability was today. And I asked Nico Collins straight up. I said, Nico, do you agree with what these dudes are saying? Here's what Nico Collins had to say about that.
There's another level. It didn't seem like there was, I don't want to say lack of satisfaction, but you heard Steph and Mixon say, and then Bobby today said they kind of left some meat on the bone in the run game. Does it feel like you got the dub, but man, we could have performed much better?
That's first day out, man. Cut that film on that first day. It's like, ooh, yeah, there's some stuff you need to clean up on, but that's what you watch film for. That's what you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. To work on them things. Get ready for this week, get ready for Chicago. So go out there, not to make the same mistake, but improve. Just get 1% every single week. It's a marathon. So I feel like for us, continue to build. Don't get complacent, man. Continue to shine every Sunday.
There you go. So Nico agrees with it. And I agree wholeheartedly. Now, what Bobby Slowick had to say today was interesting. And I always think his press conferences a lot of the time are like must listen because I don't think we're going to be able to enjoy them much longer. And I think that Bobby Slowick said something that was just wild. As soon as he said it, I was like, huh? Really? And I know that this has kind of been a theme that the team could do better. But I didn't really think this is where things were going to go. But here was Bobby Slowick's media availability. We'll be sure to react to some of the stuff that Slowick says. We'll get into the Bears head coach's wife and her past beef with a water girl. But let's hear from Bobby Slowick. A couple of interesting things. My question was about the reverse. I don't think there's any play in football that pisses off and excites a fan base as much as the reverse. The timeliness at times can be frustrating. Sometimes it feels like a momentum killer. Sometimes when it works, it's almost like shooting a three-pointer from like 5 feet deep. It's a polarizing thing, and I just wondered from like a play caller's perspective, what is it like? But let's start talking about the story of week one on the offensive side of the pill. Bobby Slowick talking about the Texans' ability to run the rock.
Yeah, I mean, like I've talked about before, like the run game really kind of sets the table. It allows us play pass, keepers, and then gets guys thinking about it when we go drop back. You get a lot of loaded boxes when they start to get worried about it. And you can put them in a bind if they want to keep playing shell and split safety stuff. So it just helps empower us to do whatever we feel we need to do to win the game. In particular, like I think was really underrated about running the ball is you gain a power position with controlling the clock. I felt like we had multiple drives. We were on the field for what felt like 5+ minutes, and for an offense is really gratifying because, you want to be on the field. That's when it's fun. And for the defense, obviously, when they're on the sideline, that gives them a little juice, that gives them a little energy, especially when they see the O-line blocking the way they were, the tight ends blocking the way they were, and Joe running it how he was.
CJ, Steph, Joe have all talked about like they're trying to left a lot on the table week one. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, and honestly, it's probably this way across the NFL week one. But we really wanted to play clean football. That was one of the big emphasis we made going into the game. And I think execution-wise, mentally, as far as doing our job, in particular in the run game, we did that. But we didn't always do it well. If there were some technique and fundamental things we definitely could clean up. I know Joe had some one-on-one ops in the hole that he would like back, and just.
All right, think about what he just said. Bobby Slowick just said that a guy who ran for a football field and a half and was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, that he left some opportunities out there one-on-one in the hole. We've lived, if you've been, we'll get back to Bobby in a sec, but I think this is really important to emphasize. We've lived in a world where the Texans for a long time have not been able to run the ball effectively. As a matter of fact, if you take away Arian Foster and you look at the Texans' top 10 rushers of all time, 2 of them are quarterbacks. That's a 20-plus year history. Deshaun Watson and David Carr. David Carr is 10th all-time in rushing for the Houston Texans. In the last few years, when the Texans have been unable to run the ball, you've had coaches go up there and insist that they're not doing as bad as we see them doing. You've had coaches insist that we got to run the ball. We might not be able to do it effectively, but we got to find some way to run the ball. They just ran for 150 yards with one guy. 30 carries, had the ball for 40 minutes. And he himself and his offensive coordinator is going up there and saying, we left some meat on the bone. That's crazy. That's insane right there. And that's very encouraging if you're excited about this squad. It's one thing for the receivers to say, yeah, you know, there's another level. Joe Mixon ran for 150-plus yards. He says he could do better. And Bobby Slowick is saying there were way more opportunities. That's wild. That's really, really wild. And it takes what Nico said to me today, what Mixon and Diggs have said after the game. It takes it to a whole nother level. AJ is swarming the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Choked up hearing that, man. That's what expectations sound like. AJ Landry, I'm from the RGV. Can I send you my Prism Silver CJ so you can get it signed for me? I greatly appreciate it. No. Appreciate the super chat, but no, I will not be getting anyone any autographs. Sorry about that, my friend. Appreciate the super very much. I had someone ask me at training camp if I would get his football signed, and I was like, you know how much of a doofus I would look like? Like I'm in the media, brother. Like I went to journalism school. Been working in radio for damn near, I don't know, closer to 20 years than 10. I would look like a total moron doing that. So no, I can't do that for you, but I appreciate you for asking. Let's hear some more from Bobby Slowick. I just think that was a crazy quote.
Little things like even how we have a track on a certain play or what our angle is on a combination up to the second level, we were off and we still got some good plays out of it. But if we were on it, to us, like, we see explosives, you know, so we felt like we missed a few of those. And then in the pass game was a little bit of everything. Protection was some physical and a lot of mental that we had to be on top of. And really it was the same route wise all the way across the board. Like it was a lot more inconsistent than the run game was.
Caller, Gus Bradley, earlier in the week, he mentioned how you guys having the 3 receiver trio forced them to kind of stay in some 2 high shells, which Joe Mixon was able to have 88 yards on 15 carries against those 2 high looks. So it's kind of like the preparation.
It loves the high-low shell disguise question.
Preparing for when you get those 2 high looks, when you can run the ball, and then kind of counter off of that. What's kind of like that preparation?
Yeah, the way the game went, you could probably, like, if you would rewatch it, you would likely feel a lot of what we're feeling just based on the flow of how the game was called. We went into the game like we're prepared for Gus's single safety, his split safety, and we were prepared for pressures, but we expected a steady mix. And that's kind of why we came out and we were fairly balanced run pass. And as the game went on and it just stayed too high, eventually you're going to take advantage of you know, where your matchup is. And I think third quarter we started running it more. In fourth quarter it really felt like we threw the ball very little. And a lot of it was, you know, that goes back to what's so fun about this group. They just empower you to do whatever you need to do to win the game, you know, and that's what we were able to pull off.
Joe talked about in the offseason how he had an offseason that he'd never had before to get ready for this year. He wanted to be that bell cow back, you know, 30 carries plus some passing down stuff. It's a big workload for a guy. Is that something that's sustainable throughout the course of the season? Is that, hey, that's what we need to do to win the game that day? How do you sort of manage something like that for a guy like Joe?
Physically, I'd say he's probably one of the few guys remaining in the NFL that could handle that. I mean, there's not many offenses you're going to run the ball to the same guy 30 times over and over and over and over again every week. But I'm not really worried about his workload in that regard. Like, he's just built and has in his past done that before and is built to do that. But it really is more of, we'll give Joe the ball as many times as necessary, and we'll give Nico the ball as many times as necessary, and we'll give Steph the ball as many times as necessary, and Tank, and like really all the way across the board. And every game's going to wind up playing out different. So, in that game, it was a 30-carry game for Joe, and when you have 30 carries and you're averaging over 4, in his case 5 a carry, that's a heck of a day.
Is having Stefon extra guy with short and intermediate passing game, I know CJ has a high yards per attempt, it seemed like Stefon is, helping you guys out when you need those slants, short routes, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough, he has phenomenal hands, he's competitive, and all of that equals ball control, but he's also explosive, and that for us, it will enable us as the season goes to stretch the field. His ops in the last game really, again, it was a lot of shell, so when his ops were called, it just didn't happen to be the right play, and a lot of times when we had to get the ball down underneath, he was the guy that was under there. But I think it really helps just reinforce to the quarterback that we can be willing to get the ball just for a completion when we don't get what we want, and we can trust the guys underneath to go move the chains, and like an example is one of the first third downs of the game, we throw it short of the sticks to Steph, and Steph's like kicking himself that he didn't get the first down, because he takes a lot of pride in that.
And I thought it was kind of interesting. They actually kicked the field goal after that, after going for it on 4th and 1 earlier. That was interesting. That was where they took the 3. That was on the opening drive. I think it was 3rd and 12, and Steph picked up 11. That's the play Slowick's talking about. And they elected to kick the field goal and take the 3.
That kind of mindset, that mentality, you can get them the ball anywhere.
Bobby, what is it like game plan for a defense like the Chicago Bears? Last week they used that defense to win. Last season they had 22 interceptions. They were top 5 in takeaways when you're playing against super aggressive corners like that, and also a linebacker who can get just as many interceptions.
Yeah, I really think they're good at every level. Their secondary is very good. Very good secondary. The backers fly around. They hit you. They're physical. Up front, they got some rushers, without a doubt, especially on the edges. They can put pressure on you. And that shows in how they played last year. I mean, when we watch tape as an offense, we all think it's a very good defense. And all we've talked about ad nauseum is making sure we protect the ball and we protect the team. That's really our big emphasis as far as going into this game, making sure that, we want to rack up yards, touchdowns, all that. But the starting point of this week is making sure that we hold on to the ball.
What goes into calling a reverse at the right time compared to like other plays or a wide receiver sweep or something like that?
A lot. I think sometimes you kind of know going into the game when you want to pull something like that. For right now, I'll call it a gadget. And then there's other times during the course of the game, just the flow of the game, what you're seeing on the field. Do guys look tired? How hard are they pursuing? Who in particular are you watching that you're attacking with a specific gadget? It really changes based on what that is. The reverse in particular was more of a feel call. We were running it pretty well, and we got to move inside to side a lot, and we just needed an offset.
Question to that point, even going back to last year, you guys ran with Tank. Why does Tank having the ball in his hands on plays like that doesn't work so well? Obviously, he takes the entire team, but when the ball's in his hands on those sweeps and stuff like that, it works very well. Why do you think that is?
He's incredibly fast and incredibly shifty, and it's really as simple
He's being dead serious.
as that. I mean, the guy goes from 0 to 60 like at the snap of a finger, and when you're doing stuff like that where you're trying to get the ball to an edge fast, I mean, that's just really valuable. And it also protects him. And that's the other thing that we always want to do when we give him the rock in those types of situations is make sure he gets to a position that he can protect himself and still get a lot of yards.
Take a couple more. Bobby, as a second-year offensive coordinator, a lot of them don't get as many weapons as you have. How do you game plan to be able to get everybody the ball, and what did it look like in real time playing in that first regular season game?
Yeah, truthfully, it's not a large part of the thought process. You know, I feel like I'm not. This isn't completely unusual. Like in San Fran, there was Debo, there was Ayuk, there was Kittle, there was Christian. There were a lot of guys you wanted to touch the ball there. So I feel like that's just how I'm used to approaching every game. You know, you make sure you have ammo for everybody, and through the course of the game, you know, as soon as you try to force it to somebody, a lot of times what happens is you call a lot of bad plays, and we kind of get into a rhythm of guys understanding the intent of what we're trying to get done, so they know when their shot is called or when their time is called, and if the defense gives it to us, let's go. And if they don't, then we got to be okay with just taking what they give us and just staying on track, pressing forward so that we can stay on the field as long as we can.
Coach Ryan has shown that he's willing to take the risks. How do you prepare to always have fourth down as an option?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
That Coach Ryan is always willing to take the risk.
Oh, on fourth down, you're talking. Yeah. Truthfully, it's pretty easy for me because I don't have the extra step of having to make the decision. So for me, it's like once third down ends, I'm like, all right, fourth down call, let's roll. And then he tells me I get to do it or I don't, you know. And I mean, it's kind of as easy as that, you know. Like we got to the 2-yard line there at the end of the game, and I know he was thinking about what he wanted to do, and then he ultimately decided, hey, let's go score. Got to play for that. Let's go, you know. So I'm not gonna say they always work, but it's easy for me. It's just once you're used to that, you prepare as though you're going to do that every time.
Last two right here, Cody and DJ.
Nico's mentioned in training camp some of the stuff that Brevin's been able to do, playing maybe faster as he understands things more. What have you noticed from Brevin's growth from maybe a year ago where you guys were when the offense kind of just started to where you are now, and what kind of role he has for you?
Yeah, I really think Brevin, from through the course of last season, like took a massive step as far as just being a professional, like being an NFL player, and not just physically but mentally and everything that goes along with that. So he knew he had to get in his playbook. He knew he had to learn our scheme. But then he went to an extra step of, okay, like how do I devote this extra time to taking care of my body? How do I devote this extra time to making sure on game day I'm 100%, I'm good to go, I'm looking fast. And he grew into that as the season went on, which I think everybody saw the way he played as the season went on. And then he carried that over into the offseason. And all he's continued to do is get better and better and better, even through camp all the way into this game. I mean, some of the run blocking clips he had in this last game were some of the best we've had since we've been here.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's stuff he's been doing since training camp. So he's just embraced all phases of being an NFL player.
What are some of the, because it looked like, you know, just looking at some of the Titans film when they played the Bears, Eberflus run a lot of too high also. What are kind of differences from too highs across different teams?
Yeah, it's very different going from what we did last week to what we're going against this week. The way they run too high, the structure they run too high from, and what they do at the front when these guys run too high is different. It's extremely sound, and you could tell they've been doing it a long time. I mean, they're on it from the secondary to the linebackers to the D-line. They know exactly where they're supposed to be and what they're doing. And then the big thing a lot of times is it's not any just individual coverage. It's a group of what a team does. So what Chicago does is a different group as far as like offsets than the group of coverages that Indy does. And it completely changes how you have to approach really every play from a game planning perspective. And then that's not even taken into account the individual. So I know I say it all the time, but when I say like every game is really different, that's a lot of why. Because you have different people in different spots, you have different schemes and different combinations of schemes and different ways they play it. And Eberflus is always, you know, I've played him twice now. This will be the third time, and he's been very difficult as far as how he's willing to change it and keep the picture moving on you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there you go, Bobby Slowick. So the Mixon thing is interesting. Still a lot of missed opportunities in the run game. That is lovely to hear, especially if you're one of the people that believes that they need to run the rock well. Now, the sustainability, I thought that was an interesting question from Stutz, but I mean, we've been kind of sold oceanfront property in Arizona from y'all are going to have that song in your head now. I apologize. From the Texans offensive staff for years when there's been no run game and we got to run the ball, or we didn't run the ball that bad, or we were just a couple inches away. You go for $150 and then you have the coach saying that. I think that's really, really wild. But they do think they feel they have another notch. This kind of feels like a game. I don't like looking ahead, but this kind of feels like if you win this one, then you're looking down at 3-0 because you'll have Minnesota after that. So it's going to be. I mean, this is a big opportunity. I don't know that the players have been begging for fans to show up, but it does kind of feel like there's. CJ says fans need to get in time, and you guys need to be quiet whenever they're on offense. And I think Derek's a big problem there. Derek, I think he's probably one of those people. Derek, you said I look like Eminem. What is that? Just because I got a hoodie on and a hat? Goodness gracious. He was asking about Slowick's shirt. I don't like that shirt. I don't like that shirt, man. He said, is it available in the team shop? I think it's available at Dollar General. That shirt looks terrible. Eminem. But yeah, Derek, shut up whenever they got the ball on offense. You heard what CJ had to say. Shut up whenever they got the ball on offense. Shout out to Derek. Be sure to swarm the like button.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. Be sure to thumbs up, subscribe, right along. Practice reports. So I'm going to do practice reports after every practice from now on. This is just a new element. I'm going to call them the basic bitch practice reports because as soon as we get kicked out of practice, I will walk to the car and I will give you the update of what to win on. It's going to be a minute or less. It'll be on the YouTube channel. Or you can check it out on the Graham story at Landry Locker. So that'll just be a new way to look at things. I'm also going to start putting out locker room availability on the page. These aren't videos that are supposed to be popular. It's just the Texans aren't doing as much podium now. So it's make do. Be ready to run whenever players speak. Used to be, you'd have this guy at the podium. But if you need to get audio of whether it's exclusive one-on-ones, whether it's their media scrums, follow my channel, follow Cody Stutz's channel, and we got that type of unique content as well. We also got our collaboration, S&L Reaction Monday, 8 to 10 a.m. Big announcement this week on that. Big announcement. Collaboration with Cody Stutz. So we'll get to that. Scott Rogers, swarm in the super chat. Shout out to you, my friend.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. Love the show from Fort Worth. Shout out to Funky Town. Shout out to Joe T. Garcia's 2 menu items. It's fajitas and enchiladas, I think. I think that's the 2 items. Strong ass margaritas, one of the nicest patios you've ever seen. It's right by Billy Bob's. Also, they have a Chimmy's. Shout out to Chimmy's, the strawberry swirl margaritas, maybe some margaritas on the rocks, maybe some half and half frozen. Those nachos are good too. Not that I've ever been to Fort Worth and consumed alcohol and nachos, but if I did, that would be my guess as to where that would be. But shout out to the Funky Town, very underrated city. I think I'm a big downtown Fort Worth person. I don't think I've ever been there and been able to walk after going to Fort Worth. That is for damn sure. Nick says he knows about that Joe T's. Very, very good. Matt Eberflus, head coach of the Chicago Bears. He earned another opportunity this year. If it doesn't go well this year, he's going to get fired, and Caleb Williams is basically going to, I don't know about pick the coach, but they're going to pick a coach that's going to maximize whatever Caleb Williams is. I'll say this. You can't have too many 95-yard performances from your number 1 overall pick and expect to keep your job. I don't care if you're a defensive coach or not. That's not a recipe for staying around and being able to ride this out with the nail painting rookie quarterback. That's not going to work for you. So we'll see if they're able to do that. Might be shorthanded at receiver, but that might not be the biggest battle that the Eberflus family has gone through. Once upon a time, 4 years ago, there was a little bit of something going on in 2020. And as a result, the NFL season was weird. Stands were half empty. And every week there was this guy put in protocol. There was this guy missing the game. There was that guy missing the game. At the time, Matt Eberflus was in his final year with the Indianapolis Colts as a defensive coordinator. And there were a bunch of Colts players who got put in protocol. Ian Rappaport had the report on the Colts players being put in protocol, and someone replied to Ian Rappaport's tweet, which is pretty common. He's a popular guy. He's got millions of followers. So COVID protocols, there's a lot of replies, but there was an interesting one from Mrs. Eberflus. This is my boy, Kevin Bowen. I think he's one of the best follows for the Colts, but this was Kelly Eberflus. And apparently she gets pretty feisty on Twitter, or she did before. She put this below Ian Rappaport's tweet. Did they call out the immature child water girl yet when talking about the COVID players being put in COVID protocol? She deleted the tweet, but Kevin Bowen, being the reporter he is, he screen grabbed it. Love me some fire. I would actually like to see Kelly Eberflus and Hannah McNair have like a debate before the game. I want to see who can talk the most smack on behalf of their squad. Hannah for the Texans, and then Kelly Eberflus for the Bears, because Hannah ain't no water girl. You can't call her out. I think that should be the entertainment. I heard Slim Thug, I think, is performing at halftime. And then I think Clay Walker's singing the national anthem. They got rid of football time in Houston, but they just can't get rid of Clay Walker. Although he still sings it at Titans games too, which is interesting, but he is a Houston dude. But yeah, Kelly Eberflus calling out the water girl. That was one of my favorite beefs back in the day. How about that though? I mean, what your wife goes and calls out a water girl when the most popular NFL reporter is putting out news. That is wild, on Twitter too, of all places. Crazy. I think she actually broke the news that he got the gig too with the Bears. I think she did that on Facebook. And then at that point, I think Eberflus just basically said, ma'am, you've got to chill. I don't know if he called her ma'am or not. Someone says they need Zero again. Yeah, I was very happy that they welcomed Zero like they did last year. That was really, really cool of them to do. Because you saw Trey the Truth a lot. And I was like, man, are they just going to like turn their back on Zero? But no, they didn't pick sides in that. So I was happy about that. And it seemed like it really meant a lot to him. You know, there's a lot of guys that make the rounds quite often, but it was nice to see Rowe getting some love from them for sure. So we are less than 12 hours. And all you got to do is ride along on this channel. If you want to know what's going on with the Texans, you want to know the biggest questions, you want to know what's going on in the mix, you want to consume the number one form of audio that there's been in this city the last half decade, courtesy of your boy. It's here. It is digital, and that's the way to go. From post-game shows to Reaction Monday to news videos throughout. All you got to do is ride along here, and we got you covered. But in 12 hours, there will be a report from someone at practice. Might be me, might be someone else. I'm sure we'll all observe it at the same time. But we're going to figure out if Dalton Schultz is practicing or not. And at that point, we won't have a clear yes, but we will have a clear no if he does not. What does that look like? Does that worry you? Is Dalton Schultz just so far down the mind and the dialogue when we talk about the stars on this team where you don't look at Dalton Schultz being gone as something big? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's guys that miss games and it's like you don't think a lot of it and you think it's easy to overcome, but then whenever they're not on the field, you look up, you're like, damn, we really could have used Blake Cashman. They really could have used, I don't know, pick a defensive tackle or something like that. Random ass linebacker. Jimmy Ward. Sometimes that happens. The Schultz thing, we've seen CJ without Schultz twice. Jets, I don't count because he didn't have Tank Dell or Nico Collins in that game either because Nico left the game early. Broncos, they ended up winning. Tank actually left that game as well. Jimmy Ward had the interception in the end zone to ice it. So we'll see. The Bears, though, they got much bigger issues when it comes to the injury thing. And I personally think that the Bears, I'll take the over on the 95 yards or whatever the hell they did on offense. That was a little bit of a struggle. I'm not I don't think their offense is going to be that bad. But without Keenan Allen, depending on what happens with him, and without a Dunze, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Can they run the ball with Swift? I'm still keeping a very close eye on the Texans D-line. What does it look like whenever they're actually challenged and pushed? And I'm also not dismissing giving up the deep play as like some sort of fluke, like, oh, well, you got to not give up the deep play. I think that might be something that they're kind of vulnerable to all season long. So we'll keep an eye on that. Jeff Okudah officially on IR. Des King is back. I anticipate that Des King will probably speak tomorrow. He didn't speak today. He was kind of in a hurry. The schedule kind of got threw off because they started practice late. Then the podium was late, and then the open locker room, they all had like meetings and stuff to do. So we'll see. We should hear from some more players tomorrow, and you know exactly where to go to check those out. If you want to see Nico Collins' media scrum, just go to the previous videos. It's up there. Again, that's not like a click gatherer. That's just a resource, because if you're like an avid Texans fan, you used to go to the website and you would have Nico at the podium, Tank at the podium, Stefon at the podium. It's not the case anymore. They just send CJ and the coaches up there. And then the media type's got to go make it happen. And we try to make it happen. Stutz does a good job of getting it. I get as much as I can to bring you whatever you need. And if there's ever like someone you say, man, I want to know this, if it's a good idea, I'll go up and try to ask them questions that are on the mind. Asked Mario Edwards. You can go check this one out at Landry Locker on Twitter. I asked him about the I guess the Indianapolis Colts. The word on the internet streets is that the Indianapolis Colts were going to send his sack of Anthony Richardson to the league. That's wild to me. That's kind of insane, because look, I'm one of those people who I can watch my squad play, and if they get a crappy call, I can say, man, that was a bad call. They benefited from it, but that was a bad call. And if there's something that probably shouldn't be called, I don't find myself like begging for flags. That was just a normal tackle of Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is just not very good at protecting himself. And he kind of stiffened up a little bit instead of just going down to the ground. But for that to be, I thought it was weird enough that the fans booed it when they did, asking for that type of a penalty, because I just think that's kind of what rubs a lot of people the wrong way about football. And then if the Indianapolis Colts are really sending that to the league, that is pathetic. Again, that's internet chatter, but that is embarrassing. Like, maintain some sort of dignity. I know Bit Ballard, times are getting a little bit more tough for Bit Ballard after being kind of the toast of the league for a while. And I felt bad for him that Andrew Luck retired, but y'all are really sending that to the league? That's the precedent you want? You want DeForest Buckner to throw down a quarterback the way that Mario Edwards did and get fined and get a 15-yard penalty? That's pathetic. That's honestly one of the worst things that I've ever heard. Honestly, that's pathetic. If that is true, but that's kind of one of the word on the streets out of Indianapolis. That's embarrassing. That's absolutely pathetic. If that is the case, really, really bad by the Colts. Keeping a close eye on the Colts, though. Let's look at some of the action this week, because week 16 is or week 2. Damn, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Week 2 is underway, and just localizing it and looking at things from a Texans POV. We got to keep an eye on the Bills. We know that the Texans are going to face the Bills. Buffalo and Miami, 2 teams that are kind of above the tier the Texans are trying to get into. Now, you can say the Texans are as good, but they got to prove themselves. Buffalo's been at that level for a long time. Miami's had a good couple of years, so out of respect, you say that. But Miami's got problems. Tua got thrown down again today. Looks like it's another concussion. We remember when he had the back-to-backs before. You got to wonder. Some people were talking about like the future of his career and stuff. I don't know that it's like that. But Miami's in a really tough spot without Tua, and who knows what happens with him. That's going to be wild. Jets versus Titans is interesting as well. This is going to be a nooner on CBS, and it's cool watch Sunday Night Football because you can kind of look around and check it out. I know that most people in here root against the Tennessee Titans, and you hate the old Oilers, and rightfully so. The stanky one is annoying. Amy Adams Stank, the owner. But isn't it better? And we all know that Gosh Allen, aka Will Levis, sucks. And they're going to eventually have to find a new quarterback. First of all, I don't think this is a very good quarterback class. I've seen Quinn Ewers at the top. I love Texas football, Longhorn football. But Quinn Ewers, I mean, come on. As a franchise quarterback, I think that's a little bit crazy. But even then, don't you kind of want the Tennessee Titans to win like 5 or 6 games? Because even if Tennessee wins a couple of games, if the Texans are what you think they are and what they think they are, and they think that they're good enough to where they can go on the road and beat a team that was close to making the playoffs last year and that it wasn't good enough, if they're that good, like, are the Tennessee Titans really a threat? The Jets, like, you got the Dolphins against the ropes right now with what's going on. If the Jets start out 0-2, can't you make a case that that's more beneficial for the Texans than the Titans just completely wet in the bed? Because you don't want the Titans to go 0-17. You want them to go like 5-12. You want them to go 6-11 and just have like some hard fought wins. That's what you want. That's hell. That's the mediocre treadmill. You can make a case, and I'm not going to tell you what to think because I don't think any of you are going to root for the Titans. I think some of you even felt bad rooting for the Titans last year against the Jags, and that won the Texans the damn division, kept them from going to Buffalo, and allowed them to host the playoff game against the Browns. Some of you felt disgusting even doing that. So I'm not going to tell you who to root for. I will say I think it's almost more beneficial for the Titans to win this game than the Jets. Jets a 3.5-point favorite in Tennessee. Patriots, we'll keep an eye on them. Texans are going to face them. They beat Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati might be a disaster this year. There's a disaster alert there. I don't know that Burrow's right, and I don't know when he is going to be right. Chargers going on the road to Carolina. I think this is probably a popular survivor pool pick. Jim Harbaugh wins his Chargers debut. I think the Chargers are going to be a very competitive team. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to get them right. But let's keep an eye on them, what tier they're in. Browns are an absolute disaster. They're going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is only a 3-point favorite in this. I might actually bet on Jacksonville. Matter of fact, I'm just going to pull up the Bet US now. I'm sorry. With the way Deshaun looked and with what's going on with Deshaun, and Jacksonville actually looked really effing good they looked really effing good in the first half against Miami. If you're telling me that's 3 points, and I'm pulling up the Bet US right now, if you're telling me that's only going to be 3 points, then I'm going to gas myself up and go ahead and make that bet. Let's I'll pull it up for the proof. Okay, where are we at here? +3. Okay, let's take the Jags. I know some of y'all say, how could you bet on the Jags? Because I like money. Now, these are the bets that you lose, but we're going to go 115 to win a hundo. I'm sorry. That's just too easy for me. Confirm. Okay. 115 to win 100. You can go to betus.com and you can get 150% bonus up to $2,000 first 3 deposits by using the code BETUS150. Hey, this isn't even a sponsored segment from them. That's just me trying to make some bread. That's just me trying to make some bread. So that's what that is. We got the Raiders and the Ravens. I picked the Ravens in my survivor pool. Lamar Jackson banged up. Gardner Minshew just ain't got it. There was some magic last year. It seems like that's kind of worn out. They just ain't got it. And by the way, Antonio Pierce is kind of a there's some passion. They play hard for him, but last week on 4th and 1, he decided to punt in his own territory in a 1-possession game. The Chargers then bled the clock, and it was over for the Raiders. I didn't think he had a good day at all when it came to decision making. You probably would like to see the Raiders win that game. I just wouldn't hold my breath. Then you got the Steelers at 1-0, the Broncos at 0-1. I always root against Sean Payton. I don't give a damn what it benefits. I wish nothing good for Sean Payton, and no exceptions there. I have no love for that guy. Chiefs only a 5.5-point favorite against the Bengals. We'll see what that looks like. Bengals starting out 0-2. I think we're going to start to hear a lot of questions about Joe Burrow. That's the localized look at the NFL here in the locker room. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Just to recap, we got the practice report with Dalton Schultz. Will he or won't he practice? We'll know relatively shortly, about 11 and a half hours. We'll be there. We'll have the update for you right here on the Basic Bitch practice report. We'll also have it on the Instagram story. So follow along on that, and it should be fun. But Dalton Schultz, keep an eye on him. We'll probably get the official word that Adunze is out. We already know this. Like, let's not be silly. He sprained his freaking MCL, and he's a rookie, and he had an MRI. Keenan Allen's really the one to watch. Are we going to see Keenan Allen, the guy that the Texans tried to trade for before they traded for Diggs? Who knows? And what does that mean for Caleb Williams? And really this Bears defense, we're really not talking enough about it. Guilty as charged. I don't think this Bears defense is getting as much love as it deserves. It's a really, really good defense. They got really, really good DBs. Matt Eberflus, despite the fact that his wife likes to talk about water girls to Ian Rappaport, he's a good defensive coach. He's a very, very good defensive coach, and he's very well respected. So we'll see how that all goes, how that unfolds, and who speaks tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Week 2 is off and running. Big story. Texans opponent in December, the Buffalo Bills. Not the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins. Tua banged up. What's going to happen with the Buffalo Bills? Who knows? But they're 2-0, so they're feeling pretty damn good. Appreciate y'all for coming through. There's a question from P. Katie that I was going to get to. Is Cam active this week, you think? I don't think, but I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle the Cam Akers situation. I wouldn't bet on Cam Akers being active. But you never know. Maybe that's something that they're just going to feel out, and sometimes we'll see Pierce, sometimes we'll see Cam Akers. I don't really know, but would it shock me if he was active? Not really. Would it shock me if he was the backup? No. Who knows? I think they like all these running backs, so it could be just kind of a week-to-week type of thing. So who knows? Got the under in this game. I think it's at 47. But appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Most importantly, always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. I'm going to get some sleep. I'm going to get my ass to practice. And then it's going to be the weekend before we know it, Sunday night. Although that kind of drags on a little bit whenever you wake up and you have to watch all the games. But it is what it is. Get under the lights, get out there, tailgate. Do what you got to do. Hell, call in sick to work on Monday if you want. You got to be proactive on that. Probably call in tomorrow too, or don't. Just troop out. Appreciate you.
Daily Digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.